See, these are your HTTP response code, okay? Or you can call them a HTTP status. HTTP status codes. So you should have understanding of these codes, what do they mean? And they are in different classes. The status code starting with 1. So 100, 101, 102. Status code starting with 2. Okay, so 101 is all informational status codes. So we do not use much of them, at least at beginner level. Starts 200. Okay, the series of 2 are all your successful response. So if you try to hit any endpoint and whatever task you are intending is successfully completed, you should get these responses. So 200 means okay, success. 201 means created. So it is used mostly with post. So if you are trying to hit a post endpoint, okay, you are trying to hitting it, if you are trying to hit a post endpoint, right? This one, any of the post mapping. Post mapping. So if you want to say it should be a request body, you are telling a return a, okay, and what status code will you return? Created. Created means whatever post I have done has successfully inserted one record. So I'll go with what? 201. 202 means the request has been accepted but not yet processed. Okay, it is not processed. It is in asynchronous calls. Okay, so one task is ahead of me. Once that completes, then this task will be taken in. Okay, so I have just accepted the request, but I have not yet completely processed it. So it will give you a 202 and 204 success, but nothing to return. So when I do a delete, it deletes that particular record, doesn't give me anything back. When I do a put, it updates that record, doesn't return anything back to me. So for such endpoints, we have 204. So for post, you will have successful post will be 201 and a successful delete will be 20. Okay, so try to use them wherever possible. They'll ask you in the interview about the HTTP status code. 3 are redirectional ones. So if you're trying to hit any endpoint and that endpoint no longer exists, so it will redirect you to a new endpoint. So for that you have your 3 series for redirection. Okay, then for your client errors, you have the 4 series, and for server errors you have the 5 series. So 400 means bad request. 40400. Bad request means invalid syntax of the request. Okay, record is not in the database or a malformed data in the request body. Whatever payload you are sending, as a, so if I want to send this, so whatever data I was sending is not properly formed, so it will give me a 400. So when you say 400 means, so if you're trying to do a get, you're trying to get a student, I'm getting which student? 9. If it is there, it will return me the response. If I'm searching for student 23, if it is not there, then it will give me a 400. It will give me a 400, means record not in the database, or your payload which you are sending as a request body might not be correct. So if you get a 400, check, do the troubleshooting accordingly. 401 unauthorized means your authentication has failed. What has failed? At login, you have not given the proper user ID and password. So bad credential is 401. So whatever, so when you're logging into an application, it will ask you for a user ID and password. If you do not provide the correct user ID and password, it says bad credentials, and the status code is 401. 403 is forbidden. 403 is manager can access the employees how many days he has worked, or on which days he is planning for a leave. But employee cannot access manager's leaves and attendance, can he? So there are certain endpoints which are accessed only on role, only on. So principal can has a higher role than a subject teacher. So if you log in as a principal, you can access a vast variety of endpoints. And you log in as a subject teacher, you can expect only limited endpoints. So it will give you 403, means you do not have the privilege to access the endpoint. Means forbidden, means no permission to access. Okay, permission denied. That is 403. 404 we all know the endpoint which you are hitting is not correct, or the page which you are looking for is not found. So endpoint not found, page not found. 405 HTTP method mismatch. If it is a post request and you give a get, or vice versa, if it is a get request and you give a post, it will give you a 405, that is called as HTTP method. And 408 is request timeout. The server has a particular time, let's say 30 seconds, to give you the response. At the 31st second, if it is unable to give you the response, it will give you a 408, means your request has timed out. And now the 5 series is for server errors. So if it shows you 500, means there is some error in the programmer's logic. There is some exception has occurred which is not handled at the programmer's end. So it will give you a 500. 501, some unimplemented HTTP method is there. 503, service unavailable. You are trying to hit an endpoint and that server is down. So 503 means that service is unavailable, and 505 is HTTP version not supported. So you have HTTP and HTTPS. So if you are a banking app, what will you use? HTTP or HTTPS? S stands for secured. So if your local, it was HTTPS colon, okay, or slash localhost colon 8084 slash students. This was the actual endpoint, HTTPS, and you try to hit it with the HTTP. The endpoint actually was a secured, HTTP secured, and you have giving it the normal HTTP will give you a 5, means the HTTP version which you are giving is not supported. So be familiar with these HTTP status codes. And what are the HTTP methods? What are the HTTP methods we have done till now? Okay, post is to create a new resource. That is which query in SQL? Insert query, right? Then get is fetch. That is which query in SQL? Select. Then put and patch is for update. That is which query in SQL? Update. And delete is for deleting. That is which query in SQL? Delete. And if you're unsure, then use request. That will take for all. That will be for all the SQL queries. You can use what? Request. Okay, HTTP status and HTTP. And how do we set that? For that, we have a response entity. So if you want to send a response along with the HTTP status, use what? So this can return me the object or return me an exception. So I'm giving question mark. So if everything goes well, return me an object of the response entity with student, and if there's exception, response entity with a string. If everything goes well, status code will be created, and if this doesn't work out, then bad.